In a small town near the royal city of Bengal lived a clever man named Gopal. He was not rich, but he was known far and wide for his intelligence and quick wit. People often came to him with their problems, and he always had a funny yet wise solution. His sharp mind had even caught the attention of the king, who loved to test Gopal with riddles, puzzles, and challenges. The two often had long conversations filled with laughter and lessons. One day, Gopal went to the royal palace to deliver some fresh vegetables from his village. The king was in his court, looking pale and tired. His ministers looked worried. The royal doctor stood beside him with a smug expression, holding a bowl of medicine. The doctor was a proud man who thought no one was wiser than him. He often boasted of his skills and demanded respect from everyone in the palace. Gopal noticed how the king frowned at the bitter smell of the medicine. He asked gently, "Your Majesty, are you unwell?" The king sighed. "Ah, Gopal, it's nothing serious, just a fever that won't go away. But this medicine tastes so horrible, I can't bear it." The royal doctor immediately puffed up with pride. "Your Majesty, bitter medicine cures best. It is my special preparation, and no one else in the kingdom could make such a perfect remedy." Gopal smiled slyly. "But truly, doctor, you must be very talented. It takes great wisdom to make something so bitter." The courtiers chuckled, but the doctor frowned. He didn't like anyone mocking his medicines. "Do not joke about things you don't understand, Gopal," he said sharply. "Our medicine is a serious matter, not a subject for your foolish humor." Gopal bowed humbly, but his eyes twinkled. "Of course, doctor, but tell me, do you ever take your own medicine?" The doctor looked offended. "Me? Why should I? I am never sick." "Ah," said Gopal, pretending to be impressed. "So you make medicine for others, but never try it yourself. Interesting." The king laughed at this, but the doctor felt humiliated. He decided to teach Gopal a lesson. "Ah, Gopal," he said sternly, "since you think yourself so clever, perhaps you would like to show us how to make better medicine." Gopal shook his head. "No, doctor, I could never match your brilliance. But I do know one thing. Sometimes a cheerful heart can cure more than any bitter potion." The king smiled again, amused by Gopal's words. The doctor, however, vowed to take revenge for being embarrassed in front of the court. A few days later, the king was fully recovered, and a grand feast was arranged to celebrate his return to health. All ministers, nobles, and palace officials were invited, including Gopal. The royal doctor, too, was present, wearing his most expensive robes and a jeweled cap to show his importance. As Gopal entered, he noticed the doctor whispering something to the king. The king looked at Gopal with a mischievous smile. "Ah, Gopal," said the king, "today we have a special competition. The royal doctor says he can identify any person's disease just by looking at their face. He is so confident that he says he can even tell when someone is about to die." The courtiers gasped. The doctor stood proudly, puffing his chest. The king continued, "Oh, pal, what do you think? Shall we test his skill?" Gopal smiled, understanding the doctor's plan. "Why not, Your Majesty? I too would like to know when I shall die." Everyone laughed, and the king nodded to the doctor. "Very well, doctor. Tell us, when will Gopal die?" The doctor looked at Gopal, pretending to examine his eyes and skin. Then he declared dramatically, "Your Majesty, this man will die exactly 3 days from now." A murmur ran through the court. The king looked shocked. 3 days? Are you certain?" "Completely, Your Majesty," said the doctor proudly. "My knowledge never fails." The courtiers whispered among themselves. Gopal only smiled calmly and bowed. "Then, doctor, I shall make sure to send you a message from the other world. Let us see if you can identify that disease too." The king laughed at Gopal's wit, but secretly he wondered if the doctor's prediction might be true. The royal doctor, on the other hand, smirked with satisfaction. He was sure Gopal would be terrified and humiliated. That night, Gopal went home and told his wife about the doctor's prediction. His wife panicked. "Oh, Gopal, what if he's right? We must pray and fast." But Gopal laughed. "Do not worry, my dear. The doctor has made a grave mistake. And by the end of this, the king will know who the real fool is." The next morning, Gopal began to act strangely. He stopped eating, stayed silent, and lay down as if he were. His friends came to see him, and soon the whole town was talking that Gopal was dying. The news reached the palace quickly. The king felt uneasy. Could the doctor be right? He wondered. He sent his guards to check on Gopal. When they returned, they said Gopal looked pale and weak. Barely able to speak, the king grew anxious and decided to visit Gopal himself. When the king arrived at Gopal's house, he found him lying still on his bed, eyes half closed, breathing softly. Gopal's wife was weeping beside him. The king leaned forward. "Gopal, my friend, how are you feeling?" Gopal opened his eyes weakly and whispered, "Your Majesty, I am near the end. But before I go, I must tell you something important." The king's eyes filled with concern. "What is it, Gopal?" "Your Majesty," Gopal whispered, "when I reach heaven, I will ask the gods about you. If they are pleased with you, I will send word through the royal doctor. But if he does not appear within 4 days after my death, you will know he has displeased the gods." The king frowned. "Why would the royal doctor come to me?" Gopal sighed faintly. "Because, Your Majesty, the gods told me last night in a dream that the doctor will die one day after me. I will meet him there." The king was startled. "What? The doctor will die after you?" "Yes," Gopal said weakly. "He predicted my death so confidently, but the gods have said his own time is near." The king looked deeply worried. He immediately sent guards to bring the doctor. When the doctor arrived and heard what Gopal had said, his face turned white. He stammered, "Nonsense, he's lying." But the king glared. "Oh, you predicted Gopal's death in 3 days. Now he lies dying. If he dies today and you die tomorrow as he says, perhaps both predictions will come true." The doctor began to tremble. "Need to go home and perform some prayers." The king nodded. "Yes, pray. And do not leave your house until I call for you." The terrified doctor ran home, locked his doors, and refused to see anyone. He stopped eating and drinking, convinced he would die. Meanwhile, Gopal rested comfortably at home, smiling quietly. The next morning, the palace messenger came to check on Gopal and found him sitting up and eating rice cheerfully. "What miracle is this?" cried the messenger. "You're alive." Gopal grinned. "Of course. Did you really think a foolish doctor could decide when I should die?" The news spread quickly to the palace. The king hurried to Gopal's house, both astonished and delighted. "Gopal, you are alive and well." "Yes, Your Majesty," said Gopal. "Thanks to your royal doctor's prediction, I got plenty of rest and good food." The king burst into laughter. "So it was all a trick?" Gopal bowed. "Not a trick, Your Majesty. A small lesson. The doctor wished to frighten me, but I only gave him a taste of his own medicine." The king laughed again. "Indeed, and where is the doctor now?" "Still hiding in his house, fearing the gods," Gopal replied. The king decided to visit the doctor himself. When he reached the doctor's home, he found him pale and trembling, clutching a bowl of holy water. "Doctor," said the king sternly, "Gopal is alive. What have you to say for yourself?" The doctor fell to his knees. "Your Majesty, I must have made an error. Forgive me. It was a mistake." The king frowned. "A royal doctor should not speak lies or make foolish predictions. You have frightened us all. From today you shall no longer serve in the royal court." The doctor bowed his head in shame. Gopal's cleverness had exposed his arrogance. Back in the palace, the king rewarded Gopal with a bag of gold coins. "Gopal," he said, "once again, your wit has saved us from a fool. Tell me, how did you come up with this plan?" Gopal chuckled. "Your Majesty, I simply used the doctor's weapon against him, fear. He tried to frighten me, but he ended up frightening himself." The king nodded thoughtfully. "Indeed, wisdom is greater than pride. From today you shall be my royal advisor, for no one else can match your wit." Gopal bowed humbly. "I am honored, Your Majesty. But remember, even a wise man should never stop laughing." The court erupted in laughter, and from that day on, Gopal's reputation spread even further. A few months later, another test of his wit came. One evening, the king invited Gopal to a banquet with several foreign guests. The conversation turned to the art of healing, and one foreign physician remarked, "In my country, a doctor's knowledge is so perfect that he can tell the disease of a man by the color of his tongue." The king looked at Gopal playfully. "What do you think, Gopal? Can our royal doctor do that?" Gopal grinned. "Our royal doctor could tell even if a man's soul had a cold." The guests laughed, and the king, remembering the previous incident, said, "Perhaps we should call him back for another test." But Gopal quickly bowed and said, "Your Majesty, a man who hides from death cannot treat the living." Everyone in the hall burst into laughter, and the king agreed. The doctor was never summoned again. Gopal's wisdom became the talk of the kingdom. Whenever someone acted proud or arrogant, people would say, "Oh, remember the royal doctor?" Years later, when the king grew old, he often called Gopal to sit beside him. "Tell me again, my friend." The king would say, "How did you trick the royal doctor?" And Gopal would laugh softly. "It was simple, your majesty. When pride speaks louder than truth, a single clever word can silence it forever." The king would nod, smiling. "Indeed, Gopal. You have taught me that laughter can be wiser than anger, and wit sharper than any sword." And so, the story of Gopal and the royal doctor spread across Bengal, reminding everyone that intelligence and humor can defeat arrogance. Even after Gopal's time, people told this tale to their children. How a simple man, armed with nothing but cleverness and courage, exposed the pride of a man who thought himself superior. It became one of the most beloved stories of wisdom, laughter, and humility. The lesson was clear: knowledge without kindness is empty, and pride without wisdom leads to downfall. And as the sun set over the golden palace roofs of Bengal, the laughter of Gopal still seemed to echo through the royal halls, bright, fearless, and full of truth.